In the past, I covered how Shredder spiraled into madness. But how did this affect those who followed him? More specifically, how did this affect his second-in-command? A world-famous mercenary who found a new family and purpose in the Foot Clan, and would end up going to hell and back before facing the only family he had left. Today, I will be talking about Takeshi, the Tiger Claw. Takeshi was an original character created for the 2012 show by Ciro Nieli and Brandon Ullman. Ciro was looking for a character similar to Destro from the G.I. Joe franchise, a mysterious weapons expert from a faraway land. He designed him as a Bengal tiger, originally from India, and dressed him like a gunslinger from the cult movie El Topo. Brandon Ullman had already created a samurai tiger named Tiger Claw when he was a kid while playing one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles role-playing games. This convinced Zero to use that name and turn him Japanese, although he kept the gunslinger motif. On screen, he was voiced by Eric Bauza, who also voiced Hun in the show, and would later play Splinter in the Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles series.
And yeah, sure, you're a rat, and it probably would have been cooler if you were a tiger or something, but that's not the point!
His sister Alopex wasn't an original character. She was based on a creation by Brian Lynch and Kevin Eastman in the IDW comics. Since that character is considered an homage to Ninjara, the TV adaptation changed her from an Arctic fox to a red fox, making her look more like the character she was based on. Alopex, whose name means fox in Greek, was given super speed in the show and a very different backstory that I will cover in a few minutes. On screen, she was voiced by Minai Noji, who also played Karai in the live-action Michael Bay-produced movies. Takeshi and his sister started as two innocent kids in Japan. One day, while playing in the park, they saw an interdimensional portal open in front of them. Naively thinking it was a magical door, they crossed it, only to find themselves being experimented on by the Krang. The siblings were mutated and survived the experience long enough to find a portal back to Earth and escape. Back in their village, their new forms scared everyone they knew. As a form of self-preservation, Takeshi decided to find a new home for his sister and himself. Later, it would be implied that he may have killed their parents after they rejected them, but the details were left unclear. Takeshi and his sister joined a circus, where they found a way to sustain themselves and live some sort of normal life. While this was the new family they needed, Takeshi soon realized their skills were being wasted there, so he convinced his sister to join the criminal underworld, where they became assassins. It's unclear how much of this Alopex did of her own volition and how much she did to not lose the only family she had left. Whatever the case, she started resenting the life they led. Fed up with the criminal life, she challenged her brother to a duel. During this fight, which they barely survived, Alopex cut Takeshi's tail, and the two ended up going their separate ways. Tiger Claw assumed Alopex had died from her injuries, but that was probably just wishful thinking. If he ever crossed paths with her again, he would get his revenge. Without a family to tie him down, Tiger Claw gained a respectable reputation as a mercenary over the years. He was usually aided by a jetpack on his back, plus two weapons he obtained along the way, a blaster and a freeze gun. It was his fame that caught the attention of the Shredder during one of his journeys to Japan. He offered Takeshi the position of second-in-command of the Foot Clan. For someone who had lost all his family, finding one that accepted him as he was, a mutant and a mercenary, was probably all the purpose he needed. Since then, he became extremely loyal to the cause, even if that cause was to hunt down Splinter and the Turtles and kill them. But integrating into this new family wasn't straightforward. Tiger Claw's appointment as second-in-command clashed with Karai, who was already in that position during Shredder's absence. Takeshi proved to be more effective than Karai and successfully cornered Splinter and the Turtles. Unfortunately, his timing wasn't great. Donatello, Casey, and April were dealing with an underground Krang operation that involved giant Dimension X worms known as Crathatragons. These beasts were the source of the mutagen that created the mutants in the show. One of these worms escaped to the surface, coinciding with a jetpack malfunction that threw Takeshi into the worm's mouth. After being swallowed by the worm, the Turtles sent it back through a trans-dimensional portal. But Takeshi was alive, and once he escaped from the worm, he found himself in the universe of the 1987 cartoon. The 1987 Turtles fought against him, but he escaped and began his trans-dimensional journey back to his universe. During these adventures, Tiger Claw fought against the Krang and, in the process, lost one eye and had one of his ears torn. Thanks to these adventures, Tiger Claw was included in the Alopex, a saga I'll discuss very soon. In that story, Mr. Og brought villains from the Turtles' past, present, and future. The Turtles were fighting to prevent the erasure of their existence. They never acknowledged if they had met Tiger Claw in the Cthulhudragon already, so we could perhaps assume that they remembered him. In any case, Mr. Og sent everyone back to where he took them without any memories of that event. Driven by his hatred for the Turtles for sending him through the Turtleverse, away from his newfound family, Takeshi returned to the 2012 universe seeking vengeance, not only against the Turtles and their master, but also their human allies. Taking advantage of Karai's affinity with the Turtles, he used her to track down their lair. However, this was when Karai finally discovered the truth about her origins, leading her to betray Tiger Claw and divert him away from the lair. Takeshi used her as a hostage to keep the Turtles at bay and escape from the failing mission. Tiger Claw was loyal to his master and the clan, but was never in denial about who his real enemies were, the Krang. He protested Shredder's alliance with the alien race and warned him that they were not to be trusted. The Krang eventually failed in their conquest of the world, and during a Triceraton attack, Splinter finally defeated Shredder, leaving him in a poor state of health. Takeshi and his minions took Shredder to a new Foot Clan headquarters, hoping to nurse him back to health. In the Shredder's absence, Karai and Shinigami tried to take over the Foot Clan's turf. This put them against Tiger Claw. When you think of it, Takeshi and Karai had some sort of sibling rivalry, with Karai trying to undo the damage done by the Shredder, and Tiger Claw trying to keep his criminal empire intact. Takeshi used Karai and Shinigami as bait to trap the Turtles, but thanks to some timely help from April, they outsmarted Tiger Claw, Razar, and Fishface. Ultimately, the good guys destroyed the Foot Clan's weapon cache. Pressured by the eventual fall of his empire, a weakened Shredder took extreme measures by asking Baxter to mutate him into a Super Shredder. During this period, Tiger Claw sensed the presence of his sister in the city. She had finally tracked him down to New York and was on her own revenge plan against him. Some sort of extrasensory connection was in place, as Alopex also sensed her brother's proximity. Her plan was to steal the cursed blades of vengeance, which were legendary for cursing any man scratched by their steel. Using these blades, she intended to kill him, or at the very least, curse him. Taking care of Takeshi was all she needed to finally get some closure on the family she lost and move on with her life. Takeshi was enraged to see her using his tail as a belt, and the two got into a long and complicated fight in which both blades of vengeance were destroyed. However, Alopex still had her own blades, and when she was ready to decapitate Tiger Claw, she stopped and told him that she was letting him live because he was the last family she had left. She then threatened to come back for him if he didn't abandon the criminal life. Once she turned her back on Takeshi, he took his blaster and tried to kill her, but she was fast enough to cut off his right hand. She then warned him again that missing an arm would be a lifelong reminder that she could have killed him there. Fortunately, Tiger Claw was able to use technology to become even more dangerous. Instead of a right hand, he now had a dock for multiple interchangeable weapons. During the Turtles' final confrontation against the Super Shredder, they also had to face Takeshi's hungry pets, 4 Bengal tigers. But it wasn't enough to stop the Turtles, who finally put an end to the Shredder. 2 years passed, and what was once Takeshi's newfound family was now in the hands of Karai and Shinigami. Perhaps in an attempt to regain a place where he could belong, he took on a deadly serious mission: to resurrect the Shredder. He discovered a race of odd creatures living underground. These were humans transformed by the spill of unstable mutagen that the Super Shredder had used. Seeing how they all possessed memories of Arakusaki, he recruited them and called them Foot Cultists. After the Turtles discovered these cultists stealing the scroll of the Demo Dragon and the seal of the Ancients, they tracked them down to an underground temple. There, they witnessed Tiger Claw invoking Kavaxis, the most powerful of the demo dragons from the Netherworld. This powerful being could potentially resurrect the Shredder, and Takeshi could control him as long as he held the Seal of the Ancients. Knowing the turtles had discovered them, Tiger Claw sent Kavaxis after them, but they got away. Resurrecting the Shredder would have been the next task, but Kavaxis found an incomplete corpse. He needed his helmet, the Kuro Kabuto, and his missing heart. The heart was in the hands of the mobster known as Don Vizioso, which they recovered. The Kuro Kabuto was in the hands of Hattori Tatsu, the blind swordsman, who wanted to take control of the Foot Clan back from Karai. Kavaxis killed Tatsu and took the helmet. With everything in place, Kavaxis resurrected the Shredder, but something was off. Shredder wouldn't allow Takeshi to get rid of Kavaxis, and the situation worsened once he named the Demo Dragon as his second in command. Tiger Claw tried to resist these changes, but Shredder, who was really working for Kavaxis, broke the Seal of the Ancients, which was the last task the Demo Dragon needed to perform to be free. Hothead, as the Turtles nicknamed him, started his spiritual overtaking of our world. During the invasion, Tiger Claw fought against the Shredder, but in his new supernatural form, Shredder was just too strong for the mercenary. In the end, it was thanks to Michelangelo that the invasion could be reversed, and both Shredder and Kavaxis were returned to the Netherworld. With his family out of reach and going in a completely different direction, and his former master dead, Tiger Claw found himself looking for a new family again. He agreed to a truce between the clans and left the city. The clan would eventually return under the control of Karai and Shinigami. But what about Takeshi? Well, perhaps he found a new family. Or maybe he finally reunited with the one he lost. For better or worse. One thing to consider with this story is that we never got to see the things Tiger Claw was accused of. Still, I think it's safe to assume that Alopex was manipulated by her love for her brother into following him down that dark path. Despite this fraternal love, I feel Alopex should be held accountable for her decisions. Then again, since we only hear vague words about what actually happened with their parents, Alopex's innocence and the gravity of Takeshi's actions are open to interpretation. Overall, Tiger Claw's motivations, despite sounding very simplistic, were marked by psychological trauma and an insatiable need for belonging. Do you think Tiger Claw got his revenge on his sister, reconciled with her, or found a new family? Leave your thoughts below. Thanks for watching. See you in the sewers.